Cows, pigs, chickens, rabbits, and even deer. These are the animals that throughout history have dominated the human diet. But have you ever wondered why we almost never see tiger, lion, or wolf meat served on our plates? Is it just a matter of taste, of culture? Or is there something deeper behind this choice, something that goes back to the dawn of humanity and our own evolution as a species? Welcome to Ancestors, Mysteries of the Wild World. Today, we're going to dive deep into the question, why don't we eat carnivore meat? The answer might be more closely linked to our survival than we imagine. The first and perhaps most crucial reason we avoid carnivore meat is intrinsically linked to food safety, or more precisely, the lack thereof. When we observe the food chain, we realize that each trophic level acts as a filter, and not always for the better. A herbivore, like a cow or a rabbit, consumes plants which are at the base of the pyramid. Their diet is relatively clean in terms of accumulated toxins from other animals. However, the situation changes drastically when we talk about carnivores. These predators, by feeding on other animals, not only ingest the meat, but also accumulate in their tissues everything that was present in the prey they devoured. This includes a worrying range of substances, parasites that can be transmitted to humans, viruses that resist cooking, heavy metals like mercury and lead, and even natural toxins that the prey might have ingested. This phenomenon is scientifically known as bioaccumulation and biomagnification. The higher an animal is in the food chain, the greater the concentration of these dangerous substances. A clear example comes from the ocean. Sharks at the top of the chain frequently accumulate so much mercury that their meat can be toxic to humans. Historically, our ancestors, without scientific knowledge, learned by trial and error that eating certain animals could bring serious diseases. Thus, safety, or the lack thereof, was an invisible but determining factor in the formation of our eating habits.
But safety isn't the only factor. Taste and texture also matter. Carnivores are agile hunters with firm muscles, little fat, and tough fibers. This results in meat that is less succulent and more fibrous, difficult to chew, unlike the tenderness of herbivores. The animal's diet directly influences the taste of its meat. A carnivore that eats only raw meat, entrails, and bones will not have an appetizing taste for the human palate. Hunters in Alaska, for example, report that the meat of bears that feed on fruits is more pleasant than that of bears that eat salmon. Taste and texture, therefore, help explain why predators were rarely the first choice for humans when hunting. Now, let's think about efficiency. Raising herbivores is much more advantageous than raising carnivores due to the energy loss at each level of the food chain. If a pasture produces 10,000 calories, a cow converts about 1,000 calories into biomass. A tiger that eats that cow retains only 100 calories. If we ate the tiger, almost nothing would be left. This is the 10% rule of energy transfer. Raising carnivores for food would be an enormous waste of resources. Our ancestors in environments of scarcity could not afford to invest so much effort for so little return. The choice of herbivores was a fundamental survival strategy shaped by ecology and resource availability. Another powerful factor comes from religious and cultural traditions. In Judaism and Islam, predatory animals with sharp claws or fangs are considered impure and forbidden for consumption. These restrictions, although seemingly arbitrary, may have had a practical origin. It is plausible that empirical observations about the dangers and disadvantages of consuming predators, health risks, taste, inefficiency, were codified into religious rules. This ensured that practices were followed, protecting the community. Over time, what began as a practical measure for survival transformed into part of cultural and religious identity. Culture transformed the instinct for survival into ingrained tradition.
But wait, not everything is an absolute rule. There are exceptions that, however, generally reinforce the rules.
In the oceans, many fish we consume, like cod, tuna, and mackerel, are carnivores. Why are they accepted? Because they were fished directly, eliminating the inefficiency of raising them in captivity. The bioaccumulation of toxins in marine fish is a managed risk, unlike predator terrestrials. Alligators and crocodiles are also consumed in some regions, where availability and cultural tradition play a role. In extreme environments, the need for survival can override any other consideration. Peoples like the Inuit consumed polar bear meat, even with risks, due to the scarcity of other sources. In these cases, the choice was not gastronomic, but existential. These exceptions contextualize the general rule, showing the complexity of the human relationship with carnivore meat. If we look at human evolution, the choice of herbivores was strategic. They were easier to hunt, more abundant, and safer. Hunting a bison or a deer posed a risk, but it was more viable than facing a lion or a bear. Herbivore meat presented a lower risk of contamination. Consuming herbivores shaped cultural and culinary patterns. The domestication of animals like cows and pigs, all herbivores or omnivores with a plant-based diet, allowed for the development of agriculture and civilizations. It is likely that the disgust or rejection of carnivore meat is a reflection of thousands of years of evolution and collective learning, a defense mechanism against dangerous or inefficient foods. Ultimately, the answer to our question is not singular. It is a mosaic of factors: invisible risks, questionable taste, energetic waste, and cultural traditions. All of these led to carnivore meat being left off the human plate, while herbivores became the protagonists of our diet. But now I ask you, if you had to try the meat of a carnivore, which one would you choose? A wolf? An eagle? Or perhaps a shark? Leave your comments below and let's discuss this mystery together.
This was another deep dive into the secrets of nature and the history of wildlife here at Ancestors, Mysteries of the Wild World. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our next adventures. Hit the bell icon to receive notifications and become part of our community of explorers. Until the next adventure.